morning, everyone, and welcome to the CLAT Possible official YouTube channel. Today, we are going to take up the news for today, which is the 13th of February 2023. The news that we have taken up are from many different disciplines: polity, economy, agriculture, defense, and internal security. So let's start off with the very first one. Now, I'm sure all of you must have read about it, that there has been the appointment of 6 new governors and reshuffling of 7 others, right? So you can see it on your screen. So for Arunachal Pradesh, Lieutenant General K.T. Parnayak; for Andhra Pradesh, Justice S.A. Nazir; for Meghalaya, Fagu Chauhan; for Sikkim, L.P. Acharya; Assam, G.C. Kataria; Bihar, R.V. Arlekar; Jharkhand, C.P. Radhakrishnan; Chhattisgarh, B.B. Harichandan; Maharashtra, Ramesh Bais. Bhagat Singh Koshyari was somebody who was in the news for a very long time, as I'm sure that all of you must have read about it. For Nagaland, we have L.A. Ganeshan. Himachal Pradesh is S.P. Shukla. Manipur is A. Yuki. And Ladakh, the only union territory wherein this appointment has been made, is Brigadier B.D. Mishra, retired. Now, these names, of course, it goes without saying that you need to learn up these names, and you take your own time and you learn them up, but they become very important. But the fact that so many governors have been appointed of late, it's very plausible that you can be asked a question with respect to their appointment, their qualification, and certain things that you should keep in mind. If we talk about the CLAT examination that the kids had given on the 18th of December 2022, if you remember, there was a question with respect to the election of the president. So keeping that in mind, let's talk about a little bit about what all do we need to know with respect to the governor. All right. So now the very first thing is that you can see this term appointment. So we will never get confused, right? A governor is not elected, a governor is appointed. Now, the very first thing is who appoints the governor. So the governor is appointed by the president of our country. However, having said that, even though that the president is appointing the governor of a state, we will not say that the governor works for the union executive. In fact, the governor is the nominal head of the state. The real head of the state, as we all understand, is the chief minister, much like whatever happens at the union level, that the nominal head becomes the president and the real head is the prime minister. Very similar to that, the nominal head of a state is the governor, whereas the real head is the chief minister. Now, the next thing that we need to understand is this particular post is one of the classic examples of quasi-federalism in India or partial federalism in India. Everyone must keep this in mind, that the kind of federalism that we follow in our constitution has been taken from Canada, wherein the center holds a little bit more power, right? There is division of powers in our country, but as I'm sure all of you are aware of it, that a little more authority is given to the center. In fact, India, that is Bharat, is a union of states, is why we use the term union for the center. Now, how is the governor a prime example of quasi-federalism? That is because he is basically a bridge between the center and the state. Now, what does that mean? That basically means that, periodically after every 14 days, the governor is supposed to tell the union whatever is happening in the state, if something good is happening or if something bad is happening. In fact, when we read about state emergency, one of the provisions on how to apply state emergency also says that it can be applicable upon the report sent by the governor to the union. Now, the governor is, of course, the nominal head of the state, hence his salary will come from the consolidated fund of state and it will not come from the consolidated fund of India. This is also something that we can keep in mind. Apart from that, what are the qualifications of a governor? So very simple. The minimum age of a governor is supposed to be 35 years, right? So not 25, not 30, not 18. The minimum age is 35 years of age. And of course, if he's supposed to be a governor or she's supposed to be a governor of a state, he or she must be an Indian citizen. Apart from that, they should have no office of profit so as to be able to do their job well. Apart from that, now this particular provision is not really mentioned in the constitution, but it is a parliamentary convention, and it is an important parliamentary convention that has always been utilized, which is basically that the governor should not belong to that particular state. So, for example, if the new governor of Bihar is R.V. Arlikar, he should not be a resident of Bihar so as to have a very neutral standpoint with respect to the administration of Bihar. Another thing that we can keep in mind is by virtue of the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1956. What was the year 1956 famous for? The fact that we, made our State Reorganization Act for the very first time in this year. So by virtue of this particular constitutional amendment, we said a governor of a state can be a governor of 2 or more than 2 states also, right? So a governor of one state can also be the governor of another state. Fine. Apart from that, another thing that we can possibly keep in mind is what is the term of a governor, right? Is a governor also impeached like the president of our country? So the answer is no, absolutely not. There is no impeachment process that is taking place when the center has to remove or change the governor of a particular state. So what is the term? So practically we used to see that, the term is basically 5 years. But if we talk about the constitutional language, it says the term is the pleasure of the president. Now, this term, the pleasure of the president, should never be confused with the fact that if, tomorrow President Draupadi Murmu does not like a person or has some personal bias against a particular person, then she can just remove that person, there and then. That doesn't really happen. The term pleasure of the president basically means that if we have appointed you for a particular job and you're doing your job well, you will continue to do it. In case we feel that you're falling short in one way or another, we can change that particular governor. Another thing, and the last thing that we need to keep in mind over here, is when I say that the appointment is done by the president, we also understand that the president shall abide by the aid and advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers while taking this decision. In fact, if you read this article very, very carefully, it has been very nicely explained that, the names of the probable candidates for the governor of these particular states, the names were suggested by the Home Ministry. So what do we have to understand? We have to know a little bit of governors. There is so much more that we can do right now. But well, let's just start off with this, learn this up, and possibly we can go ahead and talk about their constitutional discretionary powers and XYZ. But as of now, we know how a governor is appointed, what is the term of the governor, what are the qualifications of the governor. We have a very basic idea as to what a governor does, and then we need to really learn all the names of the newly appointed governors, because that is extremely important from our examination perspective. All right, now we can go on to the next slide. Here again, so millets becomes a very, very, very important topic, and we are all aware of that. And let's try and understand what is happening right now. So everybody is aware of the fact that the G20 presidency is with India, right? The main G20 summit is going to be held in the month of September in this particular year. But we've been reading on and off in our newspapers that a lot of meetings are taking place. Sometimes the tourism group is coming together. Sometimes the foreign ministers are talking about a meeting. There are agriculturists who are talking about a meeting. So a lot of meetings in that senses are taking place. Now, what is the news for today? So there is a new concept called MIIRA. Just a second. Now, MIIRA or MIIRA, right? Now, this is how India is trying to put together a sort of an organization. You can keep in mind the International Solar Alliance just to get a perspective. So, we are saying let's all come together and let's do a lot of research and development. Let's have a common platform where we can learn from one another and we can basically, commemorate this International Year of the Millets in a much better manner. And so we have spearheaded this cause and we have already made a proposal to that effect. Now, like I was saying, there are a lot of meetings of different ministers and they're going to talk about different things, and eventually the main summit is going to take place in the month of September. So there are three meetings with respect to agriculture, and in those meetings we will put up this proposal and hopefully this proposal will be passed. So let's try and understand a little bit about this. Now, what is this MIIRA or MIIRA? We need to know the full form. This is basically Millet Initiative for Research and Awareness. We can understand what this entire organization or collaboration is for just by reading the full form of this thing, right? So what are we doing? We're taking an initiative for the research and awareness of the production of millets. Fine. This is very much in line with the UN declaration of 2023 as the International Year of Millets, something which was again proposed and spearheaded by India and eventually approved by the United Nations General Assembly. This is also in line with our country's plan or center's plan to make India a global hub for millets. Now, what are millets? Bajra, jawar, ragi. I'm sure all of you are aware of it. Now, why are we talking about the production of millets and why does it become very, very important? One of the reasons that comes to mind is climate change, and the second that comes to mind is the nutritional value. Now, why did I use the term climate change? Is because of the fact that this particular crop does not require as much water as, let's say, rice. Fine. And since water is, we are having a little bit of a problem there as the water tables are shrinking and there are other issues that we are facing. So this particular crop, will come to our rescue. Plus, it has an added nutritional benefit which will make it even better for us. Now, so MIIRA will be launched keeping in mind the nutritional value and the climate resilient nature of millets, which we have just spoken about. Next, like I said, we have already made the draft charter for MIIRA and it will be placed for approval at the first meeting of the agricultural deputies from 13th to 15th February. And where will this take place? This is going to take place in Indore. So we will keep reading our newspaper and hopefully this draft charter will be approved, and this particular organization will not only help India but the rest of the world. Now, the seed money for this particular international organization, when and if it comes into being, will be put in by India, and the rest of the G20 members will also put in their money for the budget of this international alliance, and this will be in terms of their membership fee. So whoever wants to become a member of this international alliance shall put in some money, and that will be used as its budget. But the seed money of this particular international organization, as and when it is made, shall be given by India. You should also keep in mind that, the very recent budget, our finance minister called millets as Shri Ann. Right? And secondly, the Indian Institute of Millet Research, which is based out of Hyderabad, has been given the status of Center of Excellence. So this was also announced in this particular budget. So Shri Ann is something that we can keep in mind, and also the Indian Institute of Millet Research, which is based in Hyderabad. Which status has been accorded to it? The status of Center of Excellence. Apart from that, if we talk about the very smelly millets, which is the millet which is most widely grown throughout the world, and so the answer to that particular question is jawar. It is the most widely grown millet crop, and the major producers are US, China, Australia, India, Argentina, Nigeria, and Sudan. All right, so that is that about MIIRA or MIIRA, let's see when it comes into play and whatever happens in Indore. Now we can go on to the next one. I know I'm saying this again and again because this particular situation is very recurring. In fact, in the past few weeks, this is the fourth incident. Now, what is the incident? Very, very similar to what we had done a couple of days ago, that there was an unidentified object that was hovering above Canada and it was shot down as it was told to the media by the Prime Minister of Canada. Right, again, the fighter jets that we have utilized is US F-22 Lockheed Martin. This is something that we have already done, and we already know that this particular aircraft is considered to be the crown jewel of the United States. Right. Secondly, the Canadian Defense Minister, you can keep the name in mind, Anita Anand, has said that, the only thing that we know about this unidentified object is the fact that it was cylindrical, and this was the fourth such incident. The 4 incidents have taken place in these areas. So this is again something that we should learn ideally. So South Carolina, Alaska, Yukon, and Montana. These are the 4 places where these 4 separate incidents have taken place, and these unidentified objects have been shot down by the US. Now, the next thing and the last point for the day, very, very important, is the Aero India Show 2023, which is happening at the Air Force Station, Yelahanka in Bangalore. Right. Now, what is this Aero India show? This is a particular event wherein Indian companies, Indian private sector companies, Indian government sector companies, foreign companies, CEOs of various many organizations which are dealing with the manufacturing of airplanes, they are all coming together and they are showing each other what they are capable of. If at all, something like if an Indian tapas comes and, we try to show what all we can do with it, another country can possibly, ask us that they want to place an order and they want to buy it from us, much like the Romeo helicopters, which we had which we had taken from the United States of America, which were also manufactured by Lockheed Martin. So certain things about this event that we need to keep in mind. And of course, we need to keep reading our papers and we need to see which are the aircrafts or helicopters that the newspaper articles are talking about. And then all we need to know is whether it is indigenously made, whether it is utilized by India, and if it is not indigenously made, then where have we taken this from? Now, so this is the 14th edition of this particular event, right? The first edition happened in 1996, and we'll just get down to that, but this is the 14th edition. Now, this is organized by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, of course, under the Defense Ministry, but organized by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. It's a biennial event. It's not an annual event. It happens once in every 2 years. Fine. And it's a 5-day event that is taking place. And more than 80 countries and 800 defense companies, 100 foreign and 700 Indian, they're all coming together to showcase their talent. Another thing that we need to keep in mind, very, very important, that what is the theme of the Aero India show of 2023? So the theme is the runway to 1 billion opportunities. Very, very simple to learn since we've understood what this entire show is all about, right? And then there's also going to be a conclave or a sort of meeting of various defense ministers of different participating countries. Now, they are also going to come together. They are going to discuss certain things with each other. And all we need to learn is what will be the theme of this particular conclave of these defense ministers. So speed is their theme, the full form of which is shared prosperity through enhanced engagements in defense. Again, very simple, right? Defense ministers are coming together and they're talking about shared prosperity. And how will that shared prosperity come into being? By enhanced engagements in what? In defense. Very simple. Now, I also said that the CEOs of different companies are also going to have a meeting. Their meeting is a roundtable conference, and the theme of that particular meeting will be "Sky is not the limit, opportunities beyond boundaries, right? So there are three themes that we've spoken about. One theme is related to the entire Aero India show 2023, which is taking place in Bangalore. And the theme is the runway to a billion of opportunities. Then there is a conclave of defense ministers, which will talk about enhanced or shared prosperity through enhanced engagement in what? In defense. And the last one is the meeting of the CEOs. Since we've already learned these two themes, might as well do that too. Sky is not the limit, opportunities beyond boundaries. Now, a little bit about this event. There's another thing that was in news, and this particular thing is called Manthan. Right now, Manthan is an annual defense innovation event. It is a flagship technology to be showcased on 15th February, and it is organized by IDEX. What is the full form of IDEX? Innovations for Defense Excellence. And now what is this Manthan going to do? It is a Manthan of all the stakeholders, or it is basically an online platform where a lot of stakeholders, from incubators to investors to innovators to manufacturers, all of them are going to come together, and we are going to do a lot of research and development and transfer of technologies, right? Apart from that, a very important thing or very unique thing about this particular the event that is taking place right now in 2023 is that there will be a separate pavilion for Karnataka. As our Raksha Mantri or Defense Minister Rajnath Singh says that Karnataka is filled up, it's full of opportunities, and they spearhead a lot of innovations in our country. So hence we've given a separate pavilion to the state of Karnataka to showcase opportunities in the state. Apart from that, the very first Aero India show took place in 1996 in Bangalore. If the question comes that which was the first ever air show that was held in India, where we had called a lot of different countries to come and see our talent, then the answer would be 1993. Now, so the very first air show that took place where we invited a lot of foreign countries was in 1993, and at that time it was known as Avia India. Right? And we saw the success of that event, and we said, let's, create a biennial event out of it, and eventually it was renamed to Aero India, and the first ever Aero India show was in 1996. So this is something that we can keep in mind. Last thing for the day, that the last edition, of course, I said it's a biennial event. It is not an annual event. So this biennial event last was in 2021, the 13th edition, and not even the COVID-19 pandemic could stop it. And what was the unique thing over here? It was unique as it was the world's first hybrid exhibition, wherein the business elements of the event were both physically shown and there were also virtual mode, right? So these are certain things that you can keep in mind. Kindly revise, kindly make notes out of it. I hope you're still looking at and learning the headlines that we are consolidating for you every single day, and you're taking up the quiz, you're learning the answers, and also doing the on this day the compilation of historical events each and every day. Well, that is all from my side. I will see you again soon. Thank you very much, and keep studying hard.